Well, the reviews for The Acolyte have come in, and they are rather unanimous in their opinion of this show.
Fuck.
As I stated in my ramble on episode 1, that this show was not particularly inventive in its defilement of the corpse of Star Wars. It was perhaps a bit more blatant than previous shows, but nothing shown here is new. It is quite obviously the same murder performed upon much of our modern mythology. A destruction of the past performed for the purpose of extinguishing the memories of the past and the aspirations to the future. The ideology of the so-called progressives, of which the creators of the Acolyte are acolytes of, hold the belief that and thus it must be destroyed or subverted. This is why you see the deconstruction of the Jedi from being the defenders of the Republic and the common man to being a bunch of incompetent, annoying asshats deserving of the destruction they received at the hands of Sidious and Vader. And that the Sith are not evil psychopaths hell-bent on galactic domination, but instead they are a regal coven of lesbian witches who are oppressed by the Jedi, who are actually evil. But that's good, because there is no good and evil, only...
This isn't about good or bad. This is about power and who is allowed to use it.
A power which they seek for themselves. There's nothing aspirational about this story, nothing worthy of admiration. It is the most cynical, postmodernist, nihilistic garbage, and I hate it so much, because it teaches people the most busted form of morality that can only create weak, entitled, sick-minded psychos. And apparently I'm not the only one disgusted by this, because the viewership for this show has been abysmal. It only received a 31% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, which shows that the general audience has turned the corner and holds Disney Wars with absolute contempt. The problem being that these shows are not intended to make money. They are funded by companies that wish to...
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors.
The only problem being that most people do not like having their behaviors forced, and thus the death of the deconstructionist is inevitable, because while the ESG funds may be cyclopean, so too is the enormity of their failure. And thus not all is darkness. The light in all of this is that the court of public opinion sees wokery as being guilty of being synonymous with shit, and thus if things continue on their current trajectory, the funds that made all of this possible, the corporations who tried to create demand for their garbage, will have their shareholders kicking the door down asking where the hell their money is. In some places this is already happening, with companies that went the way of Rocksteady. Thus, to end on a positive note, ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing the end of this. The general apathy from the audience is killing ESG, like a Kennedy with a Hollywood starlet. It will take time, as, well, ESG funds didn't build up steam overnight, and thus it will take, most likely, an equal amount of time for the ESG PACs to have their last gasp. But that's all I've got for today, ladies and gentlemen. This has been Pete, the Radical Nerd, signing off.